Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's On Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about all of this week's new Disney Plus news, which primarily is about the new ad-supported tier. Going to be talking about some things with that one there, talking about some of the other big news of the week, but also sharing our thoughts on what we've been watching on Disney Plus this past week. And yeah, so let's just jump into it. So a quick bit of housekeeping before we go any further. So obviously we're coming up to the holidays, and some people have been asking what the schedule. So as far as the podcast goes, we're going to be running right through because it doesn't really going to impact on that too much. The Q&A for 2 weeks will not happen because of because it's Sunday, so that's obviously Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So there won't be. So next week will be the traditional last Sunday evening Q&A, but I will be doing a special open Q&A between Christmas and New Year. I haven't decided exactly what day, but I'll be doing one in between Christmas and New Year because I'm not expecting to do a lot of news that week. So I thought I'm going to do that way. So just keep an eye out, but that will be open to everybody. But there we go. Also next week we're going to be opening up the voting on the Best of 2022 awards. I've been going through; it's all done up, ready to go with it. And I realized there was a few little titles on there that come out next Friday, or in the next week. They come out next week, and I thought, you know what? After the 16th, pretty much everything is out then. So that just seemed to be a bit fairer on a few of the titles that are coming out next week. Not that they got a chance of winning, but no. Nevertheless, I thought that. So yeah, so keep an eye out for that next week. All right, so let's talk about the big news of the week. So in the United States, the ad-supported tier launched, priced at $7.99 a month, and they also, that's called Disney Plus Basic. With that there, you get access to the full library of Disney Plus. There are some limitations. You can't download content onto your devices because, well, they wouldn't be able to serve you adverts. That's the key thing. You can't do group share or share watch or anything like that because it wouldn't work, because if your friends watching it with ads, they might have a different length ad than you do, and if they don't have ads, they're just sat there waiting for you to watch an ad, so that wouldn't really work. So that's why those functions. So those, and I think there's also some difference maybe with Dolby. One of the audio versions is not available on the issue. There are some issues with the ad tier launching. So first off, they are not available on Windows devices. Not that there's that many. I mean, only really talking about PC, but you can watch it on your browser. But the main problem causing people is on Roku, because the ad-supported tier is not available on Roku because it looks like they've not done an agreement, because Roku wants some of the money and Disney obviously don't want to give them as much. So there's a little bit of an argy-bargy going on probably there, trying to get it on. Same thing happened with HBO Max and Roku. They eventually sorted it out. So if you're on a Roku device, you have to be using Disney Plus Premium, which is the old version of what we used to have. So if you're on the premium version or the on an old tier or an annual tier, you're fine, but just be aware that it might not work. So that's an issue with Roku. That's been about it. Not had too many complaints really at all about the ads, but just a quick other note that I was made aware of this morning. Disney has removed a lot more movies and shows from the child's profile. So if you go in the kids' profile, you might not be able to find Cars or Frozen. You couldn't find like Moana before, but now they've really restricted. They've taken a lot of the movies out because they basically want adverts on them. So they've taken them out the kids' profiles, which don't serve ads. You might also have been prompted with a thing asking you for your birthday and your gender. The gender and stuff. All of this is not compulsory. You don't have to do it. But what this is about is trying to set that profile so the right advertisers get the right content. It's that kind of weird thing of they don't obviously want to specifically go where they get Barbie adverts and they get Cars adverts. That's not how things work anymore. But there is still some targeting going on there, and that's what they're going to do. And so basically advertising is going to try and do that, and also for age as well, just to try and make things a little bit more appropriate. It's like when I'll be watching stuff because I watch things on YouTube. I get random adverts for some like really bad kids' toys, and you're like, well, who are you? Or the next thing, yeah. So that's how it all works, kind of thing.
I would say, as a Disney podcaster, there's probably a reason why you're getting targeted for toys versus other people in our age group who probably are not. Unless they have kids, in which case they're getting targeted with toys so they can buy them for their kids for Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate at this time of year.
Yeah, so it's generally they have and also there's rules in place with COPA and stuff that they can't promote stuff to certain age groups. So that's why these things. And I've seen a whole host of people like going, why do they want agendas? Well, it's about targeted advertising. It's not about any of the other political stuff that's being like put onto Disney. It's just literally and you can put do not disclose something like that, and so it's your choice. But that's why it's been coming up. So that's been it. Kind of the general response to this so far seems I didn't expect a huge thing. There's been a few people kind of moaning, obviously, about the price point of the annual, mainly with the annual one, because obviously it's gone up to $109 a year now, whereas it was $79. So that's quite a big jump. But I think the option of add or not add kind of took away the sting of the price rise, because you had the choice if you wanted to spend it. I mean, I'm going to stay with the premium when that one launches, because I just don't want to watch ads. But you had, in some ways, it takes away the sting a little bit, because you didn't have to take that option.
Right. And it will depend largely on how often you're using the app. Obviously, you and I were using the app frequently. It's kind of part of the gig here. So we'll be on the premium. But if you're literally just on it, you watch Andor once a week or Willow once a week, and that is the only time you load up with Disney Plus, ad tier makes sense. But if you're running it constantly, then maybe you want to bump it up.
But also as well, you might look at it. I mean, either way I look at it is if you've got, say, like got a Peacock, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, Netflix, and Disney Plus. Well, if you have them all on the ad-supported tier, it probably means you can get an extra 2 streaming services for the same amount of money, and you can have access to more content. So that's one way of doing it. You might be like, well, I use Netflix or Disney Plus more, so I do premium on that. I mean, I keep thinking about doing like YouTube premium, but it's like for the amount of YouTube that I have on there, but it's just like, it just seems a lot of money for like no real. I don't know, if it was like $3 like Disney, I would do it without heartbeat, but I'm not paying like $12-15 for it.
Let's not talk about YouTube. Their model is very awkward and weird and hard to justify. But I will say I have advocated many times, and I'll continue to advocate not necessarily having like 6 streaming packages. I think for a lot of people, it's a lot more efficient to just have 2 or 3 and then rotate through them. You've got Netflix. You watch everything you want to see on Netflix, and then you're like, okay, good. And you drop it, and you get Paramount or Apple.
Yeah.
You watch the stuff you want on that, drop it, go to the next one, and so on and so on. And maybe you have a consistent one, which obviously we'll advocate for Disney Plus on this case, where your kids are sat down, they're watching the Mickey cartoons, they're watching Moana or Frozen on repeat, and you're getting sick of them, but it's keeping your kids entertained, so you stick with it. But I don't really think there's a good reason to have like every single streaming package at once for most people. There'll be niche exceptions, but most people you can probably just rotate through.
It's funny because we were talking about this. I mean, my wife was saying, because we were like, we wanted to watch Spirited, the new Will Ferrell movie, and I'm like, I'm not paying a month. It's like, it's not. Is it worth £6 rental? It might have been a £3 rental, but we were like, maybe not. I mean, we had noticed we're getting offers of like a 6-month deal for on Sky at the minute, so we're like, could do. But we were actually also talking about Paramount Plus because it's bundled in with Sky Cinema here. And my wife sort of said, like, when our year comes up, because we took out a year package and she said, we're just not watching anything on Paramount Plus. We're barely watching anything on it. It's time because I'm watching so much on Disney Plus. I'm just not generally just using Paramount Plus. So in all honesty, I could get rid of Paramount Plus because I don't use it. The only reason I'm really kind of keeping Amazon around is because of like shipping. I'm thinking in the new year, after all the Christmas presents and stuff, I might even just drop that one down because we're just not using it enough. But my wife watches Netflix every single day, so but I've got that on the most basic tier possible. And it's like, my wife uses Netflix all the time, and therefore it's worth it. And I use Disney Plus and actually she does watch. She watches Disney Plus a lot. She's been homesick this week, so I went like, you ran on with The Patient without me. I'm like, because I don't bother with that episode now. I was going to watch. So she was like, I was like, yeah, I could tell I've been up in the office while she's been sat. It's like, yeah, she's binged for a load of shows. I'm like, what's? She goes, oh, that's not very good. I was like, she's gone through nearly everything this week.
But that's what they're useful for, right? Because back in the day, if we were sick, I'm looking from a child's perspective, not an adult in this case, but like you'd have a sick day, you'd stay home from school, and at least in the States, you'd probably end up watching like The Price is Right and a whole bunch of game shows. Maybe you'd accidentally flip over to like one of the soap opera channels and you'd be watching like General Hospital. But now, if you're stuck at home and you're on the couch and you can't really do anything, you can at least load up Netflix or Disney Plus and watch something you want to watch rather than daytime television.
Yeah, it's kind of been weird because over this peak week in the there's been a lot of talk about like the BBC and Channel 4 and ITV. They're all like reshuffling all of their streaming platforms and moving. I wouldn't necessarily moving away from linear, but they kind of position themselves as streaming and linear. And you're seeing the same thing happen now in the US with Warner Brothers. You're really starting to see that shift now going, oh, they're like 50-50 now. Now you're starting to see that little shift. But I mean, it's like the ad tier. I mean, there's a lot of people complaining on, well, that was the point of streaming. We were never going to be able to keep the old days of where we had one Netflix subscription and had everything ad-free for $5 a month for indefinitely, because that was just unsustainable in the grand scheme of things.
Realistically, it was always unsustainable, but I do understand the complaint because one of the big advantages of Netflix, especially when it first launched, was everything is on it. I don't need to go, I don't need to go to justwatch.com to find out where the movie I want to watch is or the TV show I want to watch is. I don't have to worry, it's the Paramount. Do I want to get the Paramount? Do I want to get the Disney Plus subscription? No, it was just Netflix, and it's on Netflix, and there it is. And the simplicity of it was the huge advantage, and it's why we actually saw piracy rates drop during that time period too, because like it's easy to get on it. It's actually easier to watch it on Netflix than it is to pirate the stuff. And now, of course, the rates are going back up because, do I want the Disney subscription? Do I want the blah, blah, blah? Not that I'm advocating for that, obviously, but if you want to know why that's happening, this is one of the reasons.
Yeah, and I think with the whole cost of living crisis and everything going on, they are trying to do stuff, and the ad tier, it's there to make Disney Plus profitable. There's no point sugarcoating it. We talk about this from the business side quite often. They need to do it. Every other streamer is doing it, so it makes sense. I think it's going to open up the door for more content to come onto Disney Plus now in the US, because now it's going to be, incentivize them to add some more content, especially on the general entertainment side. But yeah, it's now just putting the fact now that nearly only Apple TV is the only one. Does Amazon have an ad tier or not?
They don't have an ad tier as far as I know, but they do have some content that's not part of Prime that is ad supported.
They have that Freevee, don't they?
Yeah, it's Freevee or something like that. I will admit that I watched a couple episodes of the new Judge Judy show, Judy Justice. It's one of my guilty pleasure shows, but it's on the. I had Prime when I was watching. I don't currently. But even that had ads in it because it's not part of Prime. I don't think there is an ad-supported version of Prime.
No. It's kind of all in debate with the programming system. But yeah, so that's obviously the ad tier. I personally would have. I did find the whole concept of them kind of going, like, well, we're doing this to save money, and I was like, well, yeah, but it's the same price. It's not going to, and there's like this kind of, we're encouraged, like, you're not going to encourage more people to sign up because it's the same price. So if they weren't going to sign up last week, they weren't going to sign up this week because it's the same price. Ultimately, in the long run, now when people go to choose to sign in, you now have that option of what one you want. Now, speaking of options, let's now talk about this ad-supported tier, because one of the things that has come up with it is they have done they've restructured a lot of their bundles. So now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for $9.99 a month for a combo of the two, both of which have the ad tier, which is like, I'm thinking, is that they're only really valuing Hulu at like $1.99 a month? That seems quite low. I mean, that's what they were giving it away for Black Friday. I'm like, that's quite low. So you can now get the bundle of two, and I was like, that's a really good bundle. That's a really good bundle for $9.99 to get both of them. Obviously, we want them to merge into Disney Plus to become like it is here in the UK and everywhere else. That's what we want them to do. But they can't do that for at least another 18 months. So I think we just got to, in some ways, we just have to park that. We know it's not happening for a while. So you're getting that one. And I think that's the Disney Plus Duo Basic plan or something. And then they've got other plans where they have got the Disney Bundle Trio, which obviously is the one that has ESPN Plus, and that is $12.99 a month. So therefore, you can kind of see there you're paying $2.99 for ESPN. There's also a premium. There's also like a duo premium bundle where it's like $19.99 and you get all three of them, but without ads. And then you get Hulu Live TV, and then you got ESPN. So there's a lot of bundles. On one hand, it's good for you can choose what bundle you want to put together. I still think it's a little bit complicated. It still feels like if you've got a list of different options, it's a little bit too much. But it's good that you got the choice. So if you want Disney Plus without ads, but Hulu with ads, and you can kind of put all these together.
Yeah, at this point though, I'm kind of feeling like the bundles aren't even really unless you very specifically want the Hulu and Disney Plus ad tier versions, and you're going to stay subscribed to both of them. That's fine, but like for me, I've got the premium for both Disney Plus and Hulu. There's no bundle for that, just the two of them, and it wouldn't matter anyway because I'm on the annual plan for Disney Plus, so it wouldn't even kick in until next year anyway. The bundles just don't. They're there to look pretty. They don't really have much functional purpose, except for a couple of very specific cases.
Apparently, no, it does help with the churn, and I always feel like it's the reason why the churn rate is because they feel like they may be getting the value because they're watching, the adults are flicking over the Hulu and I feel like that might be like where internationally, like with us, of like, my wife might be watching like The Patient or Amsterdam, so therefore it increases the value. It's not just the kids, my mum and dad are watching Criminal Minds on there's that kind of thing of there's enough of us watching the app, so it makes it worthwhile. So that's definitely pretty good. But yeah, so that's the ad tier. So it's here now. So we've got Disney Plus Basic and Disney Plus Premium. Those are our two new tiers. Set to launch internationally in 2023. No dates, nothing on that at the minute. Kind of they put out a little press release, but unsurprising, and they've kind of been pushing the bundle of the two for $9.99. That's kind of been their main push, I think, just to kind of get it. They aren't going to make. I wasn't really expecting them to make a big song and dance over it because it was essentially a price rise. You don't really want to advertise that you're putting the price up. You want to save that for later. So that was the price rise. Let's now talk about some other news. So we've got a new Simpsons short coming on Thursday, December the 15th. It's the Simpsons meet the Bocellis in Viva Navidad. So this is basically the Simpsons meet the Bocelli family. They are amazing singers. Should be a song in it. Sounds fine. It's kind of like this kind of thing. It's like this. You can feel like with the Simpsons where I feel like there's some contract with Fox where they can't. This is their way of like they can't maybe do a full episode, but shorts are the only way they can get around this like legal loophole.
That's probably that. But I mean, the show is also still being produced at the moment at its regular pace. Yeah. It's possible the animators just don't have the time to do full length side episodes. But I am enjoying these little side projects. They're normally nothing too special. You forget about them after you watch them, or you never watch them again. But they are nice little bonus content to have, and I'm looking forward to seeing this. Like you said, as long as there's a song in it, you can't have the Bocellis and not have a song.
You got to do
right?
something. Yeah,
but and they are amazing singers, so that should be worth it just for that alone.
Yeah, so that one's looking pretty good. So that one's dropping on Thursday. So that was a nice little surprise announcement. We're also going to be getting, we had a new trailer for Star Wars The Bad Batch, which is coming back on January the 4th with a double episode. New episodes dropping every week right through January, February, and March with a couple of special weeks with double episodes, including the finale. Trailer looks good. More Star Wars. I'm still in that zone where I would have liked this not to be around at the same time as The Mandalorian. From a personal point of view, I know most people are like would say the exact opposite, get Bad Batch out the way. But I would have preferred March not to have had Mando and Bad Batch, just as my own personal preference, because spread it out a little.
We've definitely talked about it. I think that especially in 2023 and going forward, it'll be better for them to just kind of spread things out. Maybe not. We disagree on the degree of it, but I do think that having Star Wars shows overlapping each other, Marvel shows overlapping each other is not the greatest. They kind of cannibalize their own audience in that case.
Yeah.
I have not seen the trailer. I've specifically avoided it. We're now close enough to the launch where I'm just like, I'll find out when it comes out, kind of deal, and I'm good.
Yeah,
plus, it looks good. Season 2, we already know what to expect.
Yeah, I probably won't be doing too many more of the trailers. Yeah, I kind of feel like had this was like overlapping with Secret Invasion, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But that's the thing. I'm looking forward to Bad Batch. I liked it. I liked the first one. I've got my Wrecker toy in my got the Bad Batch Lego ship. I was looking that there's a big one that's out in the sales, but I might have to wait till after Christmas. See what I've got, because I know there's one big box of Lego that my wife's got me, and I don't know what it is. So I'm banned for buying anything.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I wasn't blown away by season 1, but you could definitely see by the end of it, the writing was starting to pick up again. And we do have to be fair. Both Rebels and Clone Wars season 1 were not the best seasons of those shows. I'm being a little bit generous here. So I'm willing to give Bad Batch, leeway, because we've seen that once the shows pick up, especially when Filoni's in charge, season 2 and onward tend to have massive increases in quality. So even though I was kind of negative on season 1 for the most part, I'm actually really looking forward to season 2 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when you compare like this to like Star Wars Resistance, it's literally night and day in terms of quality. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Nice to have this one. We're starting to see like January kicking in. There's gonna be like an Australian like surfing documentary called Chasing Waves coming. Yeah. So we're starting to see January. I expect next week we'll get it'll be next week. It might be probably next week. Or,
they want to get it out. They want to get it out of the way before the holidays really start kicking in.
Yeah. So I suspect we'll probably know next week what's coming up in January fully. Or they might even slip it back another week, because I mean they still haven't officially told us Strange World is kicking in yet. So I imagine that's coming in. But obviously next week all the focus is going to be on Avatar: The Way of Water, which hits cinemas on the 16th. They've been doing the full PR tour. Took part in a press conference earlier this week as well, and sort of got hear from all the actors. But I actually last Sunday I had to do a last minute change schedule, because I didn't do the live Q&A because I actually went up to London for a special screening of the film. Watched it in 3D. The room was shaking with some of the effects. It just, I mean, I've got my ticket for next Friday in 2D, and because I didn't want to see it in 3D, saw it in Dolby Vision. It looked stunning, absolutely stunning. It's definitely going to be one of those situations with this one of I can't really go into it too much because the embargo is next week, but just in general, really enjoyed it. It looks stunning. The story's very similar to what we saw before, but yeah, it is really, really good. But yeah, so that'll be coming out next week. So we'll talk about it properly next week once you've seen the film. I know I still haven't convinced you to go see it in 3D.
You will not convince me to see it in 3D. I know you've been singing its praises, and we're normally kind of on the same page with 3D being like a gimmick. So the fact that you're praising it actually does have weight behind it, but I'm not seeing this in 3D.
I don't know, because it was the same glasses that we had at the D23, because they were like Dolby ones. And again, someone did point this out to me that I probably went to one of the best 3D cinemas in the country, so therefore it does make it, and they project it differently on, so you can. I mean, it just looks so crisp, and these glasses actually sat like, and they actually, I don't know if they're just better designed than when the first film came out, or they actually felt like they were big enough that they actually kind of, I didn't feel like I was wearing two pairs of glasses. It kind of clipped on. It was just a lot more comfortable. So and there was still that problem with the speed up that we saw at the D23 Expo, that one scene where they're like shooting, and it just feels like you're playing Call of Duty at full speed, and it's going too fast. But that's my only little issue with it. But yeah, loved it. Can't wait for everyone to see it. This is such a cool movie. It's just like, and I know that a few people are like, well, what's the story like? It's kind of like the first one, but you know where the story's going. But yeah, it is a great one. Right. Okay, so before we go into any further, I just want to do a quick shout out to our Patreon and YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you to Jonathan, Jay, Tim, Chuck, David, Mahmoud, Raphael, Adam, Dana, Ricky, Dave, My VCR Still Works, Bina. We've also got Joshua, Dawn, Martin. Huge thank you to Sarah for your continued support each and every month. Thank you to Paul. We've also got Daniel, Elliot, Aero, Caleb, Red Mars Man, Cody, Jacob, Darren, got the Juice, Lauren, and Andrew. Thank you so much for your support. Right, so let's talk now about some other things that have come out this past week. Just trying to think. So first off, we had the Santa Clauses. So episode 5 was all about the CEO coming back, or trying to get back. So he wants, and basically Christmas is kind of Yeah, what did you think of this one?
I actually quite liked this episode, especially since I really did not like episode 4 at all. But that was more of a, we talked about it last week. It was intentionally very cringy with them entering the real world society. This was much better. This was kind of looking at the lore, the Yule verse, if you will. I know they kind of push back on that name in the show, but that's what it's called. Getting to see all the old Santa Clauses, the magic, why Tim Allen's character specifically is important. Things
kind
like
of rewriting history a little bit there.
There's some retcons going on there, retroactive continuity, yes. But I was okay with it because it did kind of tie up some loose ends and give us a reason to care about this family in particular. So yeah, this was much, much better. And I guess we'll be moving into the finale is next week, is it not?
The finale is coming up. Overall, much better episode. Really enjoying this series. It's very light-hearted. It's very easy to watch. I mean, the only thing is, and I think this really echoed it more, was this would have been better as a film. They could have trimmed out a lot of stuff, made it into a proper movie. I don't know whether necessarily, I think a straight to Disney Plus for Christmas would have been fine rather than a theatrical release. But making it into a series has stretched out the story with some stuff that isn't needed.
So when they came out with the story, I figured we would find out more about the new Santa, right? Like I figured we would have a chance to see that character kind of grow and form an attachment to him, but we really haven't. No. He shows up, he is obviously overprotective of his daughter, and he's got like a safe room and things like that in his regular house that's completely not special in any other way. And he shows up in the North Pole and turns it into Amazon and so on. But beyond that, we've got almost nothing. And there were bits of it this episode, where he's talking with his daughter about his mom, and we're learning that his mom was super into Christmas and et cetera, et cetera. But there's nothing here that couldn't have been in a movie. And that's normally the advantage of having a 6-episode show, is you really get to flesh out the characters more, and they're just not.
I think the problem is they haven't been able to lean in fully on making him the villain. And so therefore they've it's a bit like, he's ruining Christmas, but we don't actually want to make him, because he's trying to help everybody, because he's not,
he's misguided, not evil.
Because it's that thing of like, he wants to give everybody everything that they ever wanted, and wants to make it efficient, and he wants to be bigger than Santa, but ultimately they've not really pushed the button on him being a villain.
Right. Well,
and I think that problem comes from the fact of that they got him in there, they got him into place, and then they quickly switched the button, but they're not really fully villainized him, and it's a bit tricky to kind of get behind Santa.
Well, they're making him a villain by way of negligence, because obviously all the elves are disappearing because they don't enjoy their new job. Kind of almost an anti-work message by accident in there.
Well, it's more that they lose the spirit of Christmas.
They lose the spirit of Christmas. Yeah, but it's all metaphor and symbolism and stuff. But which is obviously, and he doesn't notice or he doesn't care, and that's the villainous part of it. But he's not, twirling his mustache and going, I'm destroying Christmas. No, he just doesn't get it at all, and that's the point.
No, so it's obviously got the finale coming up next week, so looking forward to seeing that one there and seeing how they wrap all this up. I think we all can pretty much see where they're going with this one, how it's all going to.
I mean, we knew where it was going from episode 1. This is very much a journey, not the ending. We know where this is going from. It's the spirit of Christmas.
I am very much in that feeling like this is a limited series. Just leave this one alone now. Let's leave this franchise as it is. We don't need sequel 2 or anything like that, because it's not really got anywhere to go. Okay, so that one's pretty cool. We got Willow. And now I'm going to be completely honest. I can't remember what episode 3 was. I watched it about a month ago, and I can't actually remember what it was. So I don't even know where I'm up to, actually.
Right. So this episode... This episode was where they kind of split into 2, and you've got the old man with the cleaver, Borgin or whatever his name is, and the princess off to find the map to the armor that they're looking for, and then the others are mostly spending the episode trying to get the wagon through the mud, and then the real princess gets kidnapped by the 3 soldiers who've been turned, and then there's a big fight sequence at the end with that, and and then there's a couple of other emotional bits in the middle, but that is the episode. That is functionally what's going on here.
I think if I'm this definitely is like the almost track. They're just moving into the next part of the story. There's not really where it goes to is good, but I don't want to go into spoilers for anyone. But this if for what you remind, it's like that was literally just the moving point to where they needed the next few episodes to go. But I really enjoyed the series. I can't wait to watch more of it when I can when I've caught up.
Right. This is definitely an A to B episode where we need to move our pieces from where they're at to where they're going to be. But they managed to do it with some emotional bits in it too. We lose one of the members of the cast, and another member is in very serious trouble moving forward. Trying to not go spoilery here, but the one thing I found with this, with talking to people, is that a lot of people like, oh, it's a Disney series. It's it's for kids. It's it doesn't have any bite, especially if you're coming off of like House of the Dragon or Rings of Power. You kind of like, oh, this is the tame fantasy series, and I want to emphasize it is not. And it's not bloody gory like Game of Thrones is, or even Lord of the Rings could have been at times, but this is not just flowers and sunshine. Characters are dying, characters are getting mauled and beat up, terrible things are happening. Just because it's not buckets of blood doesn't mean this isn't mature. And if you are looking for something fantasy after those other ones I mentioned are done at the moment, you should absolutely be checking this out. It is really, really good. And the one area that's weak is the fight choreography. It's decent, but it's definitely on a lower level than those other shows are. Otherwise, I would definitely put this up with the other shows that have come out this year on the fantasy.
And do you know what's quite good with this one? My wife actually said to me the other night, I think it was last night, she went, have we got any Willow to watch? I'm like, no, we got to wait till everyone catches up. And she went, oh. So I was like, she wants to watch it, which is, I don't tend to get that with any of the Star Wars or the Marvel ones. So that's been pretty good of how that shows to me like, oh, she's, she actually wants to watch the rest of it, as opposed to me making her watch stuff, which I'm going to be talking about.
I also wanted to point out, because this was the episode they're down in the well, and Borgin, what's his name? The guy with
I don't remember any of the names.
Anyway,
the big guy.
Yeah, the big guy. He's actually my favorite character in the show, and rapidly becoming even funnier. But he's like, there's were rats down here, and they have that great little dialogue. And then they actually show the rats, and I really appreciated that they went back to the style of the movie, which was obviously made in the 80s. And rather than having little CGI rats running around, they actually used kind of I'm going to say Muppet, but we're not talking like the Muppets or Sesame Street. We're talking Jim Henson style creations.
Practical effects.
Effects. And then, when they're running away from there, rather than, a horde of were-rats, they've got like the eyes glinting in the darkness and stuff. It's actually really effective, and it keeps it tied in with the original movie. I appreciated that touch.
It's very much, I feel like, this is like, we're only in week 2 of the series, and it felt a little bit like Disney kind of like, here's the show. It's going to be dropping for the next 8 weeks, but we're moving on now. We've done this one. We're on Avatar now. We'll see you at the end. And it feels a little bit like this series. I was like, should they just have done a binge drop and just dropped a lot at once, like doing Netflix stuff? Because it feels like the hype on this is just, and it's such a good series. And this is that sort of problem for Disney right now, where they've got so much stuff dropping all over the place that the PR machine, and obviously it costs money to run the PR machines and stuff. Like, would they have just done better if just dropped a lot and done a Netflix? And then while I know we like the weekly drop, this is where you start going, look, we're only in week 3 or week 2 of this, and it already feels like it's losing steam, and yeah.
Yeah, there is that to be said for binge drop. Obviously, I'll always advocate for weekly. I find it much more engaging. But if the show is not creating engagement, then there's no benefit to the weekly. So I'll just say, if you haven't been watching the show, if you like the fancy stuff, check it out. It is worth your time. This is a good show.
Oh, it's a premium show, but it's such a weird one because it's like kind of Disney Plus has kind of got into this situation, especially I feel like with the US and just in how everything has been so focused all the time on Marvel and Star Wars that when something like they've been doing the premieres and they've been doing all these events, but Willow was such a weird franchise because it hasn't had that connection with people. And there's generations of people that don't even know Willow. They haven't got that connection to it.
Right. And I don't think it's just Willow. You look at anything that's not Marvel, Star Wars on or Mickey on Disney Plus, and they're just not getting promotion. That includes Mysterious Benedict Society. That includes Big Shot, even Mighty Ducks, which I would consider like a pretty big franchise, really did not get much of a push. They're just kind of throwing them out there and not putting any weight behind it. And I get it. You get a bigger return on investment when you put the advertising dollars towards Star Wars or Marvel or Avatar. But that doesn't mean don't put any advertising dollars into Strange Worlds or Willow or Mysterious Benedict Society.
And it's like, we've not seen any like character posters or little clips and stuff of it. I mean, I feel like in some ways with Disney Plus, they could really benefit from stretching out these releases a little bit more during the week instead of like the Mysterious Benedict Society not being on the same day as like Willow and just kind of spreading them out a little bit more, especially here in the UK. I mean, Wednesdays, I think we're at like a dozen shows a week on a Wednesday. It just, the front page just gets lost because some shows don't even show up on there because they're just, it's like, oh yeah, we've got that and we're throwing it on there. And it's like spread them out a little bit, guys,
And even on the American side, I logged into Disney Plus this week, and there were shows on the What's New, and I was like, I didn't even know this was coming. I'm on this podcast. We do literally like every month of what's coming, and it's like, wait, what's this Indian show or movie? Brahmaster. That one, yes. And it just showed up on the bar. I'm like, wait, what the heck is it? It actually looks fascinating. I'm planning on watching it. But
I've been on my watch list for a while. I might watch it over the Christmas period. So this one was an odd one because it got added to Hulu last month and it got released on Disney Plus everywhere. Biggest Hindi movie of all time, massive, kind of like it's a start of like a superhero kind of. It's a big epic movie. It's going to be multiple parts, loads of money. So on the next on Disney Plus list, when they've released a video, in the very, very bottom bit of the text, when I go through it, because I go through it and check everything, and I'm like, Brandmaster. That's not been previously announced. They put out a press release on the day it came out to say it was on there. But then instead of putting it out on Disney Plus a month ago when they put it out on the Hulu, and again, we're starting to see more stuff being shared. And I had someone leave a message going, they're putting Star on here. It's like, no, this is one movie. This is one movie that 20th Century Studios has released. And they've also got the English dub version on there as well, so more people can enjoy it. But yeah, so it's just, it was a big major movie, but obviously this is kind of in some way niche because it's an international original. But yeah, I mean, again, this is just that kind of, I mean, it's all Retrograde. I've not had a chance to watch that one yet. I'm a big, like, mature Afghanistan war documentary they put on. They are starting to slide more stuff on there.
Yeah, from National Geographic's no less. I mean, that's not a small that's not a small release. It's just small when you compare it to, say, like Mandalorian or Andor or something like that. But yet there was something weird with the Indian one where I was reading the description. It's like, oh, and we included the original Hindi version in the extras section. And I didn't dig into it any deeper than that. But it's kind of like, why is that not just you choose which, if you want to listen to it? There must be a reason for it. I don't know what it is, but still.
I'm not sure how that is. It's like the Muppets Christmas Carol being an extra version. It's like you're putting out sing-along versions separately. Why not do the extended versions as their own? So if you're going to do it for one, do it for all, right? But yeah, so they are adding in. They are starting to put some. It's been a bit of a tricky one this week because there was supposed to be Adina Menzel's new special So that was released yesterday on Disney Plus, but it only got released in the US. It wasn't released internationally. It had been advertised. It just didn't turn up. So I didn't obviously haven't watched that one because it was just really weird of like, wow, an original hasn't come out globally. That was a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see it. I had a pretty difficult week, so most of my stuff ended up getting crammed into Thursday and Friday, and between Mysterious Benedict and Willow and the Night at the Museum, which we'll probably get to in a minute, and stuff like that, it's just like one of these has to give. It was in Adina's. I'm looking forward to watching it this weekend. I hope it's really good.
So that's why I haven't watched it, because it hasn't it didn't drop. I also watched been watching like Station 19 and Grey's Anatomy this week. We've also we started watching The Patient as well, so that's been pretty good. It's just one of those situations, and now with multiple shows, it's getting harder and harder to keep up with. I did want to watch Amsterdam because that dropped in the UK, but again, I just haven't had the chance. And also, like, The Resident has returned here in the UK, and like there's been like Mayan MCs, a whole host of different shows dropping in to watch. But let's talk about Night at the Museum, and that's an hour and 10 minutes of my life I am never getting back. Oh my word! Yes, this was bad. I know some people have been like, "Oh, it wasn't bad." It's like this for me. I've seen the movies. I loved the first movie. The sequels, this was like, didn't need it. I was waiting for it to end. I kept checking the clock. It felt like watching a Saturday morning cartoon from the 90s, with some of the humor and some of the ways it was like a bit like a Scooby-Doo episode. Kids might like it, but I think only young kids. I don't think teenagers are going to be able to sit through this very easily. I thought it was awful. I honestly thought it was awful.
I don't think I can review this objectively, because like I said, I had a really kind of crap week. It was a week of extremes, actually. I had like some really, really great news that came in, like top tier great news, and then I just got smacked with a whole bunch of really bad stuff happening. Not going to go into the deals; they're not important here. But this hit at just the right time when I'd just been hit by like a bunch of bad news all at once. And I will agree, it is completely stupid, and I don't think most people enjoy it, but it is exactly what I needed at that moment. So it worked for me, but I also acknowledge that was because it was very specific circumstances, and I needed just this stupid humor that just hit at the right moment. So that's a very backhanded recommendation for it. I get exactly what you're saying, though. I think if that had not been my situation, I would have probably just been like, can we just end? But for me, at that specific moment, it was the movie I needed. So it will hold at least a little bit of
I think
goodness for me.
I feel like, young, like 8, 9, 10, 12, I think you might be fine with it. But I think for me, there was this whole element of I can get the animation style was a bit jarring, but I kind of got used to it. I think it was just like, the villain was just like so generic. Then they suddenly introduced a small little sidekick of like, it was such a like a Disney kind of movie like sidekick thing with it. And I don't know. The fact that this kid was supposed to be 18 years old and was behaving more like Bart Simpson. Even like the introduction where he's riding in on his scooter, I was half expecting him to, Homer to kind of turn out. I just really didn't like it. I just couldn't wait for it to end. And was like, for me, it was like, this was a waste of time and just a waste of, And there was a reason why they didn't put the trailer out until the week before. That's all I said.
I will say the one thing that I did like about it, from an objective point of view in this case, was that the kid at the beginning of the movie, he fails to ask out the girl, but it's very, very clear that it's a self-confidence issue. The girl is interested. She might as well be throwing herself at him. Like, you were going to ask me out on a, and he's just like, it's very clearly self-confidence. And then of course, with the audition for the music part, again, he's doing really well and he's getting compliments, and then something screws him up and he just falls apart. And that storyline as it progresses throughout, where he gains the self-confidence, works really well. It's not subtle. It's not not at all subtle, but I actually did appreciate how
I think the whole thing of it being a DJ and just like I do all this stuff, and then like just so happens in the final boss, what do you have to do on this Egyptian pyramid?
Oh, we saw that coming from like the first.
Oh, it was like, really? Come on.
We saw that from like the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's like him being a DJ is going to be important to fit.
There's that. Yes, that was just dire. That was like.
Well,
like, you didn't need to do that bit. Didn't need to do that bit. You could have done, So push the three buttons and then push them. There's a puzzle where you push the three buttons at the same, and that would have done or not even just done that. Just disconnect it, and that would have been. They could have skipped that whole subplot, and it wasn't needed. It was just a very, very strange. Just a very strange one of how all that worked.
Sorry, there was a blip in the video connection there. The one thing I do want to offer as a complaint as well, obviously you've got plenty of them already thrown out there, but they didn't get any of the originals actors back. Obviously, Robin Williams can't be back, because he's not here, but they didn't get any of the others as well. And part of the appeal of the original Night of the Museum was the really good cast of actors that they had. And to have them not even try to match up their voices in many cases was, kind of, even if you were coming from this, like, I'm just going to watch it because I like the other ones, there's no like connection between the characters, even though they're the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the business head in me just was like, it's cheaper. And
well, obviously that was
there was just that kind of thing. I didn't really bug me that was. I mean, it would have been nice to have Owen Wilson and I was going to say
Ben Stiller,
but like having some of these ones back in doing stuff, that would have been nice, but it wasn't essential in this basically a straight to video sequel kind of thing. I kind of was also in that kind of weird thing, like they really did kind of just lean in on the fact of we expect you to have already seen the movies. We're not going to explain anything, because I was like, I can't remember them. It's like I remember the first one, but I don't even know if I've seen the second or the third one.
I haven't seen any of them actually. This is the first Night at the Museum movie I've seen, which is funny because I grew up near the Smithsonian. I should have at least seen the Smithsonian one. But there was definitely a feeling of like, I'm supposed to know what's going on, and I don't. So
it definitely, I don't know. It's like on one hand, it needed a little bit longer to maybe stretch out some of the things. It's just a simple thing. There was a load of stuff in here they just couldn't do in a live action film. That was the simple.
Absolutely.
It was just, I think as well, I was just like going back to Egypt and going through the paintings and stuff. It was a bit like, I just was very disappointed with this one. I actually preferred. I thought Diary of a Wimpy Kid was a much more enjoyable film. And that's, most people probably, I wouldn't have expected to have said that, but this one just really, it feels a little bit, I don't know, it feels a little bit flat for this year. We had like, I mean, obviously Hocus Pocus, we're kind of disconnect with this. So like Disenchanted, Roderick Rules, and Night at the Museum, it's like their big Christmas combos, and it's like, there's not really like, I mean, it's like compared to like the days where we had like Noel and Godmother, and they weren't amazing movies and by any stretch, but they at least felt like, I mean, Disenchanted, was a big movie, but these other two just, I don't know. And this Night at the Museum, the fact that zero publicity was, I mean, I don't think they did any press for it at all. I don't know. There was like literally a poster and a trailer, and that was it.
Yeah, and again, just like the other stuff we talked about earlier, I think for a lot of people, it just appeared. I don't think people knew this was coming. There was no coming soon banner for it. That is just, what's this Night at the Museum rise of name I can't pronounce?
I'm just the amount of times there's a bit. I did a news video like the other week, and I'm like, 9 takes later, it just become Night at the Museum.
Pretty much.
It was just like, I'm going to just give up on that one now.
It's animated Night at the Museum.
That's all it was. So that on there. So I'm going to put that one in my. That was not a fun movie.
I am wondering if this was maybe like a backdoor pilot for a TV series, because with the voice actors that they got, the style that they're creating it in, I could see them trying to turn this into, a Disney Channel style animated show. Whether or not this will get enough views to justify that, I'm going to lean probably not. But it wouldn't surprise me terribly if we found some news from this down in sometime in 2023.
Yeah, it's going to be weird of whether or not the views are high enough, but Disney have got to relook at how they're treating these 20th Century Studios franchises. I mean, look at Ice Age, was it Cheaper by the Dozen, Night at the Museum, all these kind of things that they're doing the bare minimum. These were big box office franchises, and they're being just reduced to just straight to blockbuster movies, and it's like, give it these just give them another 5-10 years and then do them properly. If you, rather than just, I would essentially say, like, besmirching the franchise, just cheapening it down a bit, and just like unnecessarily just doing cheap tie-ins.
Right. And at this point, I'm still willing to give them, the benefit of them having to work through COVID restrictions and so on that. But we are reaching the end of where a lot of those, especially for the lower tier movies, they're getting produced under almost the same circumstances that we were at pre-COVID. Depending on what country they're filming in, there's still, some in place, so they don't have full free reign. But the days of WandaVision, where everyone is carefully spaced apart in the final scene and stuff like that, we are past that now. And so the excuse of we're under heavy restrictions, even in 2023, I think will stop being something that we're willing to give them.
Yeah, I suppose like Disenchanted, where everything was just filmed outside, so that was their way of getting around, which makes it look easier. But I feel like, that was definitely it's kind of interesting, because I've been going through and doing all the end of year for the awards that we do every year, and where you guys vote. So the survey will be going out to everyone next week, so you can all vote, and you'll see the links on all the social medias and stuff. I didn't do worst of, because it's the best of the year, so we'll talk about that. The amount of films and series when you can buy, I mean, not just the Disney Plus, but when you take the Disney Plus and then you take all the Hulu and Star originals, there was so much. I mean, in actual fact, I was going for it now. I think, because we would now, in the coming weeks, we're going to do the best of the year and stuff. I think I'm actually going to break it down into like movies and shows. I might even, because there's that much stuff with all there was just a mountain of content out this year, and you can look at it and with the problem of Disney saying we're spending too much money on content, like when you're doing at the end of the year tally, going, I can see why. I can see why, because you're just throwing stuff out there with like these movies, like Night in the Museum and stuff. And you're just making them and throwing them out there as fast as you're doing Netflix kind of style, or just dump and run kind of thing, which is a shame, because some of this content is great. It's just not like Willow, but it feels like everything this winter just feels like it's just going. It's just really weird.
Yeah, and it's not just this winter. I mean, you're talking about how, like, in the last couple of weeks we've had a movie every week, or some sort of event every week. You go back to the beginning of the year, you go back to the summer season, and we were getting some amazing content back then. There is just so much good stuff that came out this year. It's going to be really hard to narrow down. Whereas like last year, we're like, the top 5 out of the 5 that we watched.
I even made a category just for Marvel and Star Wars, because they had like 7-8 things each.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it's been a heck of a year with that stuff, but weeks like this of just like this, it feels like almost like, shouldn't this feel like a major week? Like, in the weeks before Christmas, you want to get those big I mean, Strange World might be that big kind of thing that they're ready to launch for the Christmas period, kind of the big movie that I'm looking forward to watching. But again, I feel like with Disney like firing into these, like, we've got Avatar and Black Panther and all these other movies, they've just got so much. And I think this is where the scheduling, like, they're for different audiences and stuff, but like films, I don't know, just like Night at the Museum just feels like one of those films where they just really needed to have either, it feels like they just dumped it because they didn't want to spend any money on it, because they knew it wasn't going to pull it in. But it's very odd this year. It's kind of one of those things of like, we suddenly sped up. Oh God, which is great, but at the same time, the problem is when you are getting a lot of great stuff, the mediocre stuff doesn't hit the same. as it did when 2-3 years ago when we didn't have a lot of stuff and mediocre was all we were getting. It's like, oh, this is all right. Now we're like, I haven't got time for that.
That's what I was talking about, where it's like, yeah, we're going to the top 5, and any other year this wouldn't even be on the list, but it's number 3 this year because we got no other choices. That's not going to be the case this year.
No,
I can pretty confidently say that.
Yes. So also we got the Mysterious Benedict Society. We got the finale. Now I'm going to be honest. I sat down and watched it on was it Thursday morning, and then I realized I actually was a week behind. So I watched episode 7 and I thought it was the finale, and then I'm like, no, I've too. So I've not been able to, like I said, I didn't get around to watching the finale, but I've watched the 7 episodes. I'm pretty much like at that point now. Anything you want to add on there with spoiler free before we on the series as a whole?
I enjoyed it. The ending, it's what you expect it to be. There is a lead into what will potentially be a season 3. We don't know if there will be or there won't be at this point, but a very obvious hook for it. It's not post credits. It's actually there in the story itself, which gives me a little confidence there might be a season 3. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, with Iger coming in, things might change as well. That said, series as a whole, there's some slow points in the middle. They're on the boat for way too long. And the Zeppelin for the adults who are coming across that way.
On a side note, we have got an interview coming up over the weekend with the people that worked on the visual effects of the boat and the all of that. So that'll be coming out. Well, somebody that's talking about that.
I'm glad their special effects got plenty of screen time, because they did. They spent a lot of time on the boat and the Zeppelin. Once they got past that, story-wise, it really did pick up quite a bit. And there were some interesting developments, some things that didn't predict. A lot of interesting characters in there. Overall, I still enjoyed it quite a much. I think season 1 was better. Season 2 still very good. I mean, it's a little bit late to be saying this now, but y'all still, if you haven't watched this series and you're looking for some good, solid content, this is a good one.
Yes, it's such a weird little series. I like it. It's a bit quirky. I like the quirkiness of it. But it is, I can kind of, it's that kind of weird thing of with them shifting it over to like the Disney Channel for accountancy purposes. It kind of fits on the Disney Channel, but at the same time, we're like, this would have been quite fun to see on a Saturday evening on ABC. It kind of feels like they could have got away with this, pushing it to because it's like it has got kids in it and it is a bit childish in some ways, but it's like the adult bits in it are quite. There's some additional. I don't know. It's like it's a really weird little series, and I love it. I think it's such a cool little show, and so quirky, and and it's like it's a bit slow. I feel like it maybe could have done with maybe 2 less episodes and like squished it a little bit, longer to get to places. But I just love the quirkiness of all the characters. It's just something about like the straight on the visual style, the look of the whole show. Yeah, it's a fun little series, but again, I haven't. As I tell, I've been a little bit on and off with it, of like watching it. I like watch 2 episodes and I wait 2 weeks, and it's an odd one, but it's a really funky little show. I think it's one of the highlights of what Disney Plus offers that is not Marvel or Star Wars, but again, it's just trying to get this stuff out there for people to. I don't know. Sometimes it's just a little banner on a thing is enough, because
It definitely suffered from coming out at the same time as Andor, and to a lesser extent Willow as well, because it gets kind of lost in the shuffle. And we kept pushing it back week after week. We've got other things to talk about. It's we're enjoying it, but it's not the show that draws people in. But for all the reasons you said, the aesthetics, the way it's shot, the framing, the actors, they got some great actors involved with this. It's a really good, unique show. It's not necessarily what you think of with Disney, but at the same time, it's got that Disney feel to it.
Yeah.
I particularly love Milligan, the bearded guy. He's such a fun character, and his going back and forth with his daughter and trying to figure out how to be a parent, and her figuring out how to try to be a daughter. It's just great writing all around.
Yeah, no, it's a really good show. It's definitely kind of, again, I really wish that they like shifted Mighty Ducks away from it to kind of give this one a little bit more space, because like dropping them both at the same time, and at least I didn't even finish Mighty Ducks. It's very strange of how they're dealing with all this stuff right now.
it really does feel like, say, September on to now and on through the rest of the year, their scheduling was just weird. Like, they just threw stuff on the schedule, like dartboard style, when a lot of these shows really should have just been spaced out. Mighty Ducks, Big Shot, not as a binge drop, but weekly. Mysterious Benedict, not all at the same time, but, you know, one after the other, that kind of thing. And instead, they're just like, no, here you go, everything. And stuff gets lost in the shuffle.
I definitely feel like they needed it. So next week, we're going to be talking about National Treasure, Edge of History. So
looking forward to that.
Yep. So yeah, I'll be talking about them because I've been watching them. The embargo is I think it's Monday. So I think on Monday or Tuesday, my review will be coming out for the first couple episodes.
This coming Monday is in the 12th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it comes out on the 14th. We're getting a double episode to kick off. So that'll be pretty good. We also got the finale of Santa Clauses, which we can talk about then.
It will definitely be a show.
Yes. So that'll be good. And we'll be talking about Avatar. So that'll be another thing we're going to be watching. I'm trying to think what else we got next week. Oh, there's a new documentary coming out on Friday. If These Walls Could Sing or something, which is a Abbey Road documentary made by Mary McCartney about the very popular studio. So something a little bit different, and then we've got the Simpsons short. So there's quite a few new things dropping, and I think what else we got. I think we got Hardy Boys is dropping here in the UK this week. I'm
assuming that's on Hulu over here.
Yes, season 1 and 2. So we're getting seasons 1 and 2. So it's quite a bit behind America. I'm looking forward to Big Sky returning in 2 weeks. That's the next big one. Right, on that note, guys, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you guys next week with another episode of the What's on Disney Plus podcast, and we shall see you guys soon. Later. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Later.